The galaxy listened to Earth's final warning. Attack once more and be annihilated. For almost 3 decades, the galaxy had treated Earth like a new student in an old and dangerous school. Human ships were modern but fewer in number than those of ancient empires. Human diplomats were polite but firm. Human leaders spoke often of peace. Many older civilizations believed humanity did not yet understand how cruel the wider galaxy could be. President Daniel Brooks understood it very well. He had grown up during the first border skirmishes, when unknown raiders attacked small mining stations in the outer solar system. At that time, he had been a young naval officer watching emergency reports scroll across his screen. Now he sat in the highest office on Earth, older, calmer, and far more cautious. The attack reports had never truly stopped. Sometimes it was a cargo ship vanishing near the edge of mapped space. Sometimes it was a research station going silent without explanation. Each time evidence pointed toward organized forces. These were not random pirates. They were supplied. They were guided. Grace Mitchell stood in the center of the Global Defense Chamber, a circular room filled with layered holographic displays. She was head of strategic intelligence, known for her careful analysis and steady voice. Her short brown hair was streaked with early gray from years of stress. She tapped the air, and a map of nearby star systems expanded above the table. "These are the confirmed incidents in the last 12 months, she said. Red markers blinked along the outer colonies. General Ethan Cole leaned forward. He had the posture of someone who had spent his entire life in uniform. His voice was low but firm. "They're testing response time," he said. "They hit civilian targets, pull back before our fleets arrive, and watch how we react." Admiral Ryan Carter crossed his arms. He commanded the Deep Space Fleet and had seen more real combat than most officers in the room. "They want us to overextend," he added. "If we chase every raid with full force, we weaken our central defenses." President Brooks listened without interrupting. He had learned that leadership often meant silence before decision. Above them, the image shifted. A symbol appeared over several systems. It was the emblem of the Veloran Dominion, one of the oldest powers in known space. Officially, the Velorans denied any involvement in attacks on human territory. Unofficially, their trade ships had been spotted near nearly every incident. Grace zoomed in on the pattern. "We intercepted encrypted communications between Veloran fleet units and independent raider groups," she said. "The language is indirect, but the support is clear. Supplies, coordinates, safe routes." Ethan's jaw tightened. "They think we won't respond directly because they haven't attacked openly." "They believe we fear escalation," Ryan said. Daniel finally spoke. "They believe we're still deciding who we are." Silence filled the chamber. Humanity had joined the interstellar community only 40 years earlier. In that time, they had advanced quickly. Their engineers were creative. Their scientists were bold. Their soldiers adapted fast. But politically, Earth still tried to show restraint. For years, Daniel Brooks had sent formal protests to the Veloran High Council. He had provided evidence. He had demanded investigations. Each time, the response had been polite denial. Now another colony was in danger. Proxima settlement was a growing human world orbiting a red dwarf star. It had rich mineral fields and a young population. Families had moved there hoping to build a future far from the crowded core worlds. Grace turned the display again. A cluster of unidentified ships had appeared near Proxima's outer defense line. "They're staging," she said quietly. Ryan stepped closer to the table. "Our nearest fleet group is 6 hours away at maximum burn." "Evacuation?" Daniel asked. "Partial," Ethan answered. "But they'll block jump lanes once they commit." Daniel felt the weight of the decision pressing on him again. For years, he had hoped the hidden project would never need to be used. It had been built as a final answer, not a first response. Deep beneath Mars, in sealed facilities protected by layers of secrecy, Dr. Olivia Bennett had led a team of scientists and engineers on something that most of the galaxy would consider impossible. Olivia was not in the chamber physically, but her image appeared on a side display. She had dark hair pulled back tightly and eyes that rarely blinked when she focused on a problem. "The Aegis network remains on standby," she said calmly. "All nodes are synchronized. If activated, it will function at full capacity." Ethan glanced at Daniel. "Sir, once we reveal that system, there's no going back." Daniel nodded slowly. The galaxy would know humanity had been hiding power far beyond what they had shown publicly. Trust would change. Fear would grow. Grace cleared her throat. Veloran internal broadcasts suggest they expect limited resistance. They believe Proxima will fall quickly. Because we've allowed limited strikes before, Ryan said. Daniel stood from his seat and walked toward the central display. He looked up at the image of Proxima, a small blue and green world glowing faintly in red starlight. They've mistaken patience for weakness, he said. Years earlier, after the first confirmed Veloran-backed attack, Daniel had approved a classified initiative. Humanity would not attempt to match ancient empires ship for ship. Instead, they would build something smarter. The Aegis network was not a fleet. It was a distributed defense grid hidden across human space. Satellites disguised as communication relays. Research stations that were more than they appeared. Energy collectors placed in quiet orbits around distant stars. Each piece alone looked harmless. Together, they formed something far more powerful. Olivia's team had discovered a way to manipulate controlled gravitational distortions across vast distances using synchronized quantum anchors. In simple terms, they could bend space around hostile ships without destroying entire star systems. It required precision beyond anything attempted before. Daniel had insisted on one rule: the network would only be used if humanity faced undeniable aggression. It was a shield with teeth, not a sword for conquest. In the defense chamber, alarms chimed softly. Grace's face tightened. Veloran fleet has increased power output. They're forming assault lines. Ryan looked at Daniel. Orders? Daniel did not answer immediately. Instead, he activated a communication channel that connected directly to Ambassador Lucas Hayes, Earth's representative to the Galactic Assembly. Lucas appeared on screen, standing in a vast hall filled with alien delegates. His blonde hair was slightly messy, as if he had been rushing. "Mr. President," Lucas said quietly, "news of the Proxima fleet is spreading. The Velorans claim they are conducting a security operation." Daniel gave a faint smile. "Of course they are." He straightened his posture and spoke clearly so that the assembly microphones would capture every word. "Humanity has endured repeated acts of aggression for many years. We have responded with evidence, diplomacy, and restraint. Today, a Veloran fleet has surrounded one of our civilian colonies. We demand immediate withdrawal." Murmurs spread through the assembly behind Lucas. Daniel continued. "If this attack proceeds, Earth will respond in a manner that ensures such aggression never happens again." He did not raise his voice. He did not threaten directly. He simply ended the transmission. Back in the defense chamber, Ethan exhaled slowly. "That's the clearest warning we've ever issued." Ryan checked his console. "Veloran fleet has acknowledged receipt." No change in formation. Grace's fingers moved quickly through streams of intercepted data. "Their internal chatter suggests they believe we're bluffing." Daniel looked toward Olivia's image. "Status: all network nodes aligned," she replied. "Activation window ready." But once triggered, energy signatures will be visible across multiple sectors. "The galaxy will see," Ethan said. "They need to," Daniel answered softly. Another alarm sounded. "Veloran ships have fired on Proxima's outer defense platforms," Grace reported. A heavy silence filled the room. On the main display, small icons representing defense satellites blinked out one by one. Ryan's voice was steady but urgent. "Surface cities are powering shields, but they won't hold against a full bombardment." Daniel closed his eyes briefly. He thought of the families on that distant world, children playing under an artificial sky, farmers tending fields beneath a red sun. They had trusted Earth to protect them. He opened his eyes again, calm and certain. "Activate the Aegis network," he said. Olivia nodded once. Initiating sequence. Across the solar system, systems that had slept quietly for years began to awaken. Hidden platforms shifted position. Energy collectors redirected stored power into quantum conduits. Deep space relays synchronized their pulses. In orbit around Saturn, a small relay station unfolded like a mechanical flower. Far beyond Pluto, a silent probe adjusted its orientation. On the dark side of Mars, buried generators hummed to life. Ryan watched sensor readings spike. "Energy output is rising beyond standard fleet levels." Grace's eyes widened slightly. "Veloran ships are detecting something, but they can't identify the source." On the screen, the Proxima system glowed brighter as invisible fields formed around the invading fleet. Olivia's voice remained calm. Gravitational lenses forming, target lock established, containment field at 70%. Veloran ships began to drift out of formation. Their engines flared erratically. Containment field at 100%, Olivia said. In the Proxima system, space itself seemed to twist gently around the assault fleet. It was not explosive. It was not dramatic. It was precise. Veloran ships froze mid-attack. Their weapons powered down automatically as internal systems struggled against forces they did not understand. Shields flickered and collapsed. Ryan stared at the display. "They're immobilized." Grace listened to frantic Veloran communications. "They're requesting emergency extraction. They don't know what hit them." Daniel stepped forward and opened a direct channel to the Veloran fleet commander. A tall alien figure appeared on screen, its expression tense. "This is President Daniel Brooks of Earth," he said calmly. "You were warned. Withdraw immediately or further measures will be taken." The Veloran commander hesitated. For the first time, uncertainty showed. Behind Daniel, Ethan and Ryan stood silently. Olivia monitored the network's stability. Grace tracked every signal. The galaxy was watching. For years, humanity had endured attacks with restraint. Now they had shown a glimpse of something deeper. Daniel's voice remained steady. "This is Earth's final warning." In distant systems, alien observers recorded the event. Analysts across the galaxy tried to understand how a young civilization had immobilized one of the oldest fleets in minutes. And in the silent chamber beneath Mars, the Aegis network continued to hum, ready to do far more if required. The moment the Aegis network activated, shock spread far beyond the Proxima system. Long-range sensors across dozens of star nations detected strange gravitational waves that did not behave like natural forces. Observatories tried to measure it, but the readings made little sense. Space itself seemed calm and violent at the same time, bending gently yet holding enormous power beneath the surface. Inside the Human Defense Command Center, silence followed the first reports. The Veloran assault fleet, which had entered the system with confidence, now drifted helplessly. Their engines fired in short bursts but failed to move the ships. Weapons systems powered down one by one, as if controlled by an unseen hand. Grace Mitchell listened to intercepted communications. Veloran officers spoke rapidly, their voices filled with confusion. Some believed their ships had been infected by a virus. Others thought they had entered a hidden minefield. None of them understood the truth. Admiral Ryan Carter studied the tactical display. He was not smiling. Victory had come quickly, but he knew this was only the beginning. "They will test the field," he said quietly. "They won't accept defeat without trying to understand it." President Daniel Brooks nodded. "Maintain the containment field, but keep energy output stable. We are showing strength, not cruelty." Dr. Olivia Bennett monitored the Aegis network from her control station beneath Mars. Multiple screens surrounded her, each filled with flowing streams of data. She spoke calmly despite the enormous pressure. "The gravitational anchors are stable. The system is holding their ships without crushing them, but we must avoid sudden fluctuations." General Ethan Cole folded his arms as he watched the frozen fleet. "If they try to fire again." "They cannot," Olivia replied. "Their weapon systems require precise alignment. The distortion field prevents that." Daniel stepped closer to the communication console. The Veloran commander still waited on the open channel, his expression tense and uncertain. "You have witnessed Earth's defensive capability," Daniel said. "Withdraw your fleet and cease all aggression against human colonies." The Veloran commander hesitated. His species valued pride above all else, and retreat in front of observers would be humiliating. "You attack without honor," he said finally. Daniel shook his head slowly. "You fired first, we responded." The channel closed without another word. Grace turned toward Daniel. "Their command ships are sending encrypted signals beyond the system." "Likely requesting reinforcement or instructions." Ryan frowned. "Then we should expect escalation." Daniel remained calm, but inside he felt the weight of history shifting. Humanity had revealed a secret weapon. The galaxy would never see them the same way again. Hours passed as the trapped Veloran fleet struggled inside the containment field. Small drones attempted to escape but were pulled gently back toward the center. The distortion was not violent, but it was absolute. Meanwhile, across the galaxy, reactions spread quickly. In the halls of the Galactic Assembly, alien diplomats argued loudly. Some accused humanity of hiding dangerous technology. Others praised them for defending civilian lives without destroying entire systems. News networks replayed sensor footage showing the moment the Veloran ships froze. Ambassador Lucas Hayes stood among them, answering questions with careful words. "Earth has always pursued peace," he said repeatedly. "Today's events show that peace does not mean helplessness." Back in human space, fleets moved cautiously. Admiral Ryan Carter ordered nearby ships to remain outside the Proxima system. "We don't need to appear aggressive," he explained. "The network is enough." Grace continued to analyze intercepted messages. After several hours, she looked up with concern. "Veloran High Council is mobilizing additional forces. They are calling this a hostile act by Earth." Ethan exhaled slowly. "They started the fight but now claim to be victims. Predictable." Daniel turned to Olivia's image. "Can the network hold against multiple fleets?" "Yes," she said, "but energy consumption will rise significantly. We must choose targets carefully." Daniel knew this moment would shape the future. If humanity escalated too far, fear could unite other empires against them. If they showed weakness, the attacks would continue. Another alert sounded. "Veloran ships are attempting a coordinated engine surge," Ryan reported. On the display, several trapped vessels flared with energy as they pushed against the distortion field. For a brief moment, one cruiser moved slightly forward. Olivia reacted instantly. Adjusting gravity vectors. The field shifted gently. The cruiser stopped and drifted back into position. Ryan smiled faintly. "They just learned how strong the cage is." Daniel watched quietly. "Send them another message." The communication channel opened again. The Veloran commander appeared, now visibly angry. "You have dishonored the Dominion," he said. "Release us or face consequences." Daniel's voice remained calm. "You are alive because we chose restraint. Stand down and withdraw." The commander hesitated again, then ended the transmission abruptly. Grace tilted her head. "Their internal signals show disagreement among their officers. Some want to retreat, others want to keep fighting." Ethan nodded. "Pride is cracking." Hours turned into a full day. The galaxy watched as the standoff continued. Analysts debated whether humanity had become a new superpower overnight. Inside the defense chamber, Daniel finally allowed himself to sit down. He looked tired but focused. Ryan approached quietly. "Sir, even if they retreat, this will not end peacefully. The Velorans will prepare something larger." Daniel nodded. "Then we must prepare as well, but without becoming what we fear." Meanwhile, in the Proxima system, colonists watched the sky with mixed emotions. At first, they had been terrified when the Veloran fleet arrived. Now they saw enemy ships frozen like statues among the stars. News broadcasts explained that Earth had protected them. Families gathered in public squares, staring upward at the silent battle. Back in the command center, Olivia suddenly spoke with urgency. "Multiple new warp signatures detected near Veloran territory. Long-range sensors suggest large fleet mobilization." Grace confirmed quickly. 3 separate formations. "They are not heading here yet, but they are preparing." Ethan glanced at Daniel. "This is only round 1. Daniel stood again. "Then we continue carefully, prepare a galaxy-wide transmission." Within minutes, cameras activated. Daniel stood before a simple background showing Earth from orbit. "For many years," he said, "humanity has chosen patience. We believed dialogue would prevent escalation. Today, we showed that we can defend ourselves without destroying entire worlds. We ask again for peace. But we will not allow attacks on our people." He paused, letting the message carry across thousands of systems. "This is not a declaration of war, it is a declaration of limits." When the transmission ended, silence filled the room again. Grace broke it softly. "Reactions are mixed, but many smaller nations are supporting us." Ryan crossed his arms. "They see a protector." Daniel frowned slightly. "We must never become a ruler." As the second day began, the trapped Veloran fleet finally changed behavior. One by one, their weapons powered down fully. Ships stopped struggling against the field. Grace listened to incoming signals. "They are requesting negotiation." Daniel allowed himself a small breath of relief. "Open the channel." The Veloran commander appeared again, his posture less rigid. "We request withdrawal under safe conditions," he said. Daniel nodded. "You will be released once you confirm retreat from human territory and cease all support for raids." There was a long pause. Finally, the commander inclined his head slightly. "Agreed." Olivia began adjusting the network carefully. Reducing containment strength slowly, they will regain movement in controlled stages. Ryan watched closely as the first Veloran ship regained maneuverability. It turned away from the colony and moved toward open space. One by one, the fleet followed. No shots were fired. The Proxima system fell quiet again. Daniel leaned back slightly, feeling the tension ease for the first time in days. Humanity had won the battle without annihilation, but deep inside, he knew something had changed forever. The galaxy had listened to Earth's warning, and now it was waiting to see what humanity would do next. The retreat of the Veloran fleet from the Proxima system did not bring peace. It only brought a pause. Across the galaxy, military observers studied the recordings again and again. The frozen ships, the silent distortion in space, the sudden loss of control. No known weapon matched what Earth had used. No ancient empire had displayed that kind of precision. Inside the Veloran Dominion, anger burned like fire. The High Council gathered in a chamber carved from dark crystal stone. Massive holographic displays replayed the moment their fleet had been trapped. Some council members demanded immediate revenge. Others warned that charging blindly into unknown power would be foolish. Pride struggled against fear. Back on Earth, President Daniel Brooks sat with General Ethan Cole, Admiral Ryan Carter, Grace Mitchell, and Dr. Olivia Bennett. The atmosphere was tense but controlled. "They will not let this humiliation stand," Ethan said quietly. Grace nodded. "Our intelligence shows internal conflict within their leadership. Hardliners are pushing for full war." Ryan folded his hands on the table. "If they send 3 grand fleets at once, even the Aegis network will be tested." Olivia looked calm but serious. "The network can handle multiple formations, but energy strain will increase. We must avoid long-duration containment of massive forces." Daniel listened carefully. He knew the next move would define humanity's future. "We do not strike first," he said. "But we will not be unprepared." In deep space, hidden nodes of the Aegis network shifted into new positions. Satellites rotated slowly. Quantum anchors recalibrated. The system had only shown a fraction of its ability at Proxima. Now it prepared for something larger. Days passed. Trade routes grew quiet. Civilian ships avoided border zones. News networks speculated about open war between humanity and the Veloran Dominion. Then the warning came. Grace stood abruptly in the command chamber. "Long-range sensors confirm it. 3 Veloran Grand fleets have left their territory, destination likely human core systems." Ryan stepped forward. "Estimated time of arrival, 48 hours at current speed." Ethan exhaled slowly. "They're not hiding it this time." Daniel felt the weight of history pressing down again. Open communication channels to the Galactic Assembly. Within minutes, Ambassador Lucas Hayes appeared on screen from the Assembly Hall. "They're moving openly," Lucas said. "Many delegates are nervous." "Some fear the conflict will spread." Daniel spoke calmly. "Tell them this. Humanity will defend itself. We do not seek conquest, but if attacked again, we will end the threat permanently." Lucas nodded and relayed the message to the wider chamber. Back in the Defense Command Center, preparations intensified. Civilian evacuation plans activated across frontier systems. Fleets repositioned not to attack, but to observe and guide the enemy. Ryan explained the strategy to the team. "We draw them into monitored sectors where the Aegis network coverage is strongest. We avoid heavy fleet engagement unless necessary." Ethan added, "Ground defenses on all major worlds are on full alert." Olivia monitored energy reserves carefully. "The network nodes are fully synchronized. We are ready." As the Veloran fleets crossed into human border space, their formation was intimidating. Thousands of ships moved in 3 massive waves. Battleships, carriers, heavy cruisers. It was a show of power meant to break morale. But Earth did not panic. On screens across the galaxy, the approaching armadas were visible. Observers waited to see if humanity would strike first. Daniel stood before the main display, watching the red markers move closer. He spoke quietly. "This is their final test." Grace intercepted Veloran internal messages. "They believe overwhelming force will make us hesitate." Ryan gave a faint smile. "They still think we're bluffing." The first Veloran fleet entered the outer defense grid. No human ships engaged them. No missiles launched. It was silent, then Olivia spoke. "They have entered full containment range." Daniel nodded once. "Activate Phase 2. Across space, invisible gravitational lines formed like a net tightening around the invading fleets. This time the effect was broader and stronger than at Proxima. Veloran ships suddenly struggled to maintain formation. Engines flared brightly but produced little movement. Weapons systems flickered. The second and third fleets attempted to scatter, but the distortion field expanded outward in controlled waves. Ryan watched in amazement. All three fleets are within range. Ethan's voice was steady. Containment is holding. Inside the Veloran command ships, chaos erupted. Officers shouted orders that produced no results. Ships collided gently due to loss of precise maneuvering control. Communication channels filled with confusion. Grace listened carefully. They are shocked. They did not believe we could repeat Proxima on this scale. Daniel opened a direct channel to the Veloran High Council. The chamber appeared on screen, filled with tall alien leaders. Their expressions were no longer confident. "You were warned," Daniel said calmly. "You crossed into our space with full invasion fleets." The High Chancellor spoke with controlled anger. "You threaten galactic balance with hidden power." Daniel shook his head. "We defend our people. Withdraw now, or we will neutralize your military command centers." The chamber fell silent. Olivia whispered, "Energy levels are stable, but holding three fleets for long periods will strain reserves." Ryan leaned closer to Daniel. "If they refuse, we must escalate." Daniel's voice remained steady. "Give them time." Hours passed with the fleets trapped in distorted space. News of the standoff spread rapidly. Smaller nations publicly called for the Velorans to retreat. Some even offered to mediate. Inside the Veloran High Council, arguments intensified. Some leaders realized their dominance was broken. Others demanded desperate measures. Suddenly, Grace raised her hand. "We are detecting a power surge from one of their flagship carriers. They may attempt a concentrated weapon discharge." Olivia reacted instantly. "Reinforcing local gravity vectors." On the screen, a Veloran carrier fired a powerful energy beam. The beam bent sharply and dissipated harmlessly into empty space, redirected by the distortion field. Ryan allowed himself a short breath. "They just proved they cannot fight inside the field." Daniel spoke again to the High Council. "Your fleets are helpless. We have not destroyed them. Do not force us to." For a long moment, no one spoke. Finally, the High Chancellor lowered his head slightly. "If we withdraw, what guarantees do we have?" Daniel answered simply. "We seek no territory. We demand only non-aggression." Behind him, Ethan and Ryan stood silently, symbols of strength without aggression. The council members exchanged quiet words among themselves. Grace monitored signals closely. "Internal votes are happening." Olivia checked the network stability again. "We can maintain for several more hours safely." At last, the High Chancellor faced the screen again. "The Veloran Dominion will withdraw its fleets from human territory. We will cease covert operations against your colonies." Daniel nodded once. "Upon confirmation of retreat, your fleets will be released." Orders were transmitted across the trapped armadas. Engines powered down fully. Weapon systems shut off. Olivia slowly reduced the distortion strength in controlled stages. One by one, Veloran ships regained stable movement. This time they did not hesitate. The massive fleets turned away from human space. Across the galaxy, observers watched history unfold. Humanity had faced one of the oldest empires and held its ground without firing a single destructive strike. When the final Veloran fleet exited containment range, silence returned to the stars. In the defense command chamber, tension slowly faded. Ryan leaned back. "They won't forget this." Ethan nodded. "No one will." Daniel looked at the display showing empty space where the fleets had been. He felt no triumph, only responsibility. Grace spoke softly. "Smaller nations are already requesting defense agreements." Olivia added, "The Aegis network performed beyond expectations." Daniel finally allowed himself a slow breath. "Then we use this moment carefully." The galaxy had listened to Earth's warning once before. Now it had witnessed proof. Humanity had drawn a line and held it. But Daniel knew the true challenge was not in defeating enemies. It was in ensuring that power would always remain guided by restraint. And as the stars grew quiet again, the future of the galaxy felt different. Not because humanity had sought war, but because humanity had shown that it could end one. After the Veloran fleets retreated, a strange quiet spread across the galaxy. Trade routes slowly reopened, but ships traveled more carefully than before. Military observers stayed alert, unsure whether peace had truly returned or if another conflict waited just beyond the horizon. On Earth, President Daniel Brooks did not celebrate. He understood that victory without destruction had created a new balance, but it had also created fear. Many civilizations now saw humanity as powerful in ways they had never imagined. Inside the Global Defense Chamber, Grace Mitchell studied incoming reports from hundreds of systems. Requests for alliance filled the communication channels. Smaller worlds asked for protection. Neutral powers wanted to understand the Aegis network. Some ancient empires sent cautious diplomatic messages, attempting to judge humanity's intentions. General Ethan Cole stood near the main display, reading summaries of military responses across known space. "No immediate threats detected," he said quietly. "But fleets are repositioning everywhere. Everyone is watching us now." Admiral Ryan Carter nodded slowly. "They are not afraid of war, they are afraid of uncertainty. We showed something new." Daniel leaned back in his chair. He felt tired but focused. "Then our next move must remove uncertainty, not increase it." Dr. Olivia Bennett appeared on screen from the Mars facility. She looked exhausted but satisfied. "The Aegis network is stable, but energy reserves dropped more than expected during full-scale containment. We need time to recharge and recalibrate." Daniel nodded. "Reduce active readiness levels but keep monitoring." Grace turned toward him. "Sir, the Veloran Dominion has requested formal negotiations." The room fell silent for a moment. Ethan crossed his arms. "That was faster than expected," Ryan added. "They are likely trying to regain political control after the defeat." Daniel thought carefully before answering. "Accept their request, but negotiations will be transparent, no secret deals." Meanwhile, across the galaxy, news channels replayed recordings of the trapped fleets again and again. Analysts debated whether humanity had become the most powerful force in known space. Some worried that Earth would become a new dominant empire. Others argued that humanity had shown restraint unlike any other rising power. Ambassador Lucas Hayes stood before the Galactic Assembly, explaining humanity's position. "Earth seeks balance," he said calmly. "We will not threaten peaceful civilizations. The Aegis network exists only to defend against aggression." The words were simple, but they carried weight. Days later, the Veloran delegation arrived near Earth space under heavy observation. Their ships approached slowly, broadcasting peaceful intent signals. Human escort vessels guided them to a neutral orbital station. Daniel, Ethan, Grace, Ryan, and Olivia met inside a secure conference chamber. Across the table sat Veloran representatives, including a senior diplomat named Adrian Keller, one of the few human allies trusted by both sides. He acted as mediator to prevent misunderstandings. The Veloran leader spoke first. "The Dominion acknowledges that recent actions led to unnecessary escalation. We seek a path forward." Daniel listened carefully. "Humanity warned repeatedly before responding. Our goal is simple: no more attacks on our people." The Veloran delegation hesitated, then nodded slowly. Negotiations continued for hours. Terms were discussed in simple, clear language. No hidden threats, no complicated political traps. Humanity insisted on open monitoring agreements that would track large fleet movements. The Velorans demanded respect for their sovereignty. Grace observed every detail, watching body language and tone. She noticed something new. The Velorans were no longer arrogant. They were cautious. After long discussion, a temporary peace framework was agreed upon. It was not a full alliance, but it ended covert hostilities. When the meeting ended, Ryan spoke quietly to Daniel. "I never thought I would see the Velorans negotiate like equals." Daniel gave a small smile. "Power changes conversations." Outside the station windows, stars drifted slowly. The galaxy seemed calmer, but Daniel knew peace required constant effort. Back on Earth, celebrations began in some cities. People gathered to watch broadcasts showing the successful defense of Proxima and the peaceful retreat of enemy fleets. Families felt safer knowing humanity could protect them. But Daniel chose not to give a victory speech filled with pride. Instead, he addressed the world with honesty. "For years, we endured attacks because we believed peace could be achieved through patience," he said. "Now we have shown that peace must sometimes be defended. Our strength exists so that future generations do not need to fight." His words spread across countless worlds. Meanwhile, scientists across the galaxy attempted to understand how the Aegis network worked. Some praised human innovation. Others feared that such power could reshape interstellar balance forever. Olivia led a team reviewing ethical protocols. "We must ensure the network cannot be misused," she told her engineers. "It must remain a shield." Ethan began restructuring defensive forces. Instead of focusing on large fleets, he created rapid response units that worked alongside the Aegis network, emphasizing protection rather than attack. Ryan organized joint patrols with smaller nations that had once feared humanity. These missions showed cooperation instead of domination. Grace uncovered new intelligence reports showing that several pirate groups had already disbanded. Without Veloran support, they no longer dared to attack human colonies. Months passed. Trade routes flourished again. Diplomatic relations improved. New alliances formed based on trust rather than fear. One evening, Daniel stood alone on a balcony overlooking Earth's night side. Lights from cities below looked like stars mirrored on the planet's surface. Grace joined him quietly. "You look tired," he smiled faintly. "Leadership often feels like walking a narrow path," she nodded, "but you kept us from crossing the line into war." Daniel looked toward the sky. "We showed power without destruction, that matters." Far away, the Veloran Dominion began internal reforms. Their leaders realized that ancient dominance could no longer guarantee control. Some younger Veloran officials pushed for cooperation instead of aggression. The galaxy slowly adjusted to a new reality. Humanity was no longer seen as a fragile newcomer. They were respected, sometimes feared, but increasingly trusted. Years later, historians would study this period as a turning point, not because a great war had been fought, but because one had been avoided. The Aegis network remained hidden but ready, its silent presence reminding everyone of Earth's final warning. Humanity had not conquered the galaxy. They had changed how power was understood. Strength guided by patience, defense guided by restraint. And among the stars, civilizations learned that peace was strongest when protected by those willing to stand firm without seeking domination. The galaxy had listened when Earth spoke. And because of that, the stars grew quieter, safer, and filled with new possibilities for a future where survival no longer required constant fear.